No good deed goes unpunished. And I don't mind being there with the boy. I've had that pleasure for years and years. No, I never shut up. There's to say the best that you can. Tell me special person, but you lift up my smile. And when outside, they come around. Sometimes it's really bad. They use them my face. Some people don't want to treat me the same. With the flowers, with some people say I'm obnoxious and lazy. I'm uneducated. My opinion may not, but I know, yeah, I'm a real cool dancer. Don't need to look over my shoulder. See what I'm at. Everybody got the problems. Ain't no good in shade. I'm the same old truck. You can have the old kids. These are all these kids. Nothing to care. Just to do desire. That having come here. With no walls, with no walls, with no walls.
All right. Hey, I'm for those of you who don't know me, I'm Maureen Lawner, and I grew up in Fulton County, and I'm here today to talk about the brutal murder of my brother, Steve O'Donnell, and I want to talk to you about some other things, that I think just need to be said about Steve's case and about what's going on in Fulton County. So my brother was murdered in his own home in Bleecker, New York. That was October 28th, 22. It was not covered in any of the local papers. It was not covered at all. It should have been, right? That's when people come forward a lot of the time, right? At the beginning, when people know that something happened. But something else got in the way of my brother's case moving forward, and I want to talk about that. And how maybe you can help me. So when my brother was brutally murdered, it was an active crime scene. So the New York State Police came in and they did what they do, and it was, all the caution tape, and it was like that for a long time because it was a murder. What came to my attention is that this case has been sabotaged by Sheriff Richard Giardino and by the Fulton County Sheriff's Department. So day one, an active crime scene with the New York State Police, and a neighbor comes over to my brother's house and tries to offer Sheriff Giardino directly camera footage of the road, right? And the sheriff refuses to take camera footage from a neighbor when it's an active crime scene. Now, we were told that the area was canvassed for cameras. I don't believe that ever happened. One of the neighbors said if they had come to her door, she would have had them on her cameras. So that happened. It also came to my attention that another neighbor also came forward and went to the Fulton County Sheriff's Office, and they refused to take the footage. So people were bringing forth evidence, and it was not accepted. I also know for sure that a local business offered camera footage of the road, and they never even called them back. So we were lied to. We were told by the sheriff that first week that he was going to keep it open. He said, I'm going to treat this like it was my brother, and I promise you, he hasn't. So by day 5, it's like the Fulton County Area News had been told by the sheriff that this was a suicide. And I just need everyone to hear over and over again that this suicide narrative, it does not fit. It never fit. It doesn't fit who my brother was. But he had already gone to the news. Now, the autopsy actually took 9 months to come back. So we've got the sheriff calling it a suicide and refusing to accept evidence, even though, 9 months later, the medical examiner actually signed off on it. And, maybe I want to talk a little bit about who my brother was. So Steve he's my big brother. He's 11 months older than me. Steve was the life of the party. He was fun. He loved life. He made people laugh. He loved to make fun of people. And so, this suicide narrative that was spun by the sheriff from the very beginning, and he should have never said anything. It was with the state police as a crime scene, and then it was an open suspicious death case. So he should have never been telling people this was a suicide, because it's a lie. It's a lie. It's an ugly lie, and it's a narrative that just doesn't fit. I don't know how to explain to you. If you knew my brother, you would understand. But that's nonsense. I'd like to talk about the autopsy and everything that's wrong with it. First of all, this is not a valid autopsy. It has the wrong date of death. It has the wrong time of death. It doesn't have a summary. Now, I'm fairly certain that autopsies require a summary. It's not even a complete report. It's a joke. That's what it is. My brother was stabbed multiple times. He was butchered. And even in the report, when they're trying, to spin this narrative, they can't even come up with a convincing story. So right now I have a problem. So we're being forced to push out a private investigation for camera footage. Now, I wish that this camera footage would have been collected at the time. And I know it's later, but also I feel like it's worth a try. Like I've got to try to get that camera footage. This should never be in the hands of family members. This is what I trusted that the police were doing, and they weren't. So the case it was an open suspicious death case for more than a year. I'm being told that I can't call investigator Chad Simonson. And I was told that I have to go to the DA, Mike Pullen, with any new information. So my situation is that I have multiple sources of new information, right? This case is not closed. They just want it to be. And, what nonsense is this? Now, that wouldn't be a problem if the DA, Mike Pullen, actually returned my calls, but he doesn't. So this is the setup, guys. I've got multiple sources of information for my brother's death. I've got a DA who never returned my calls for the first year after Steve died. He called me once, and that was after Tyler McNeil with the Schenectady Gazette posted an article, and it made the front page. So that's the day the DA called me. But he's not calling me back now. And, it's just a ridiculous setup. Like, I'm laughing because I don't know what else to do. Sometimes I laugh when I'm uncomfortable too. But what's happening is that the sheriff, Richard Giardino, he used to be a district court judge in the area. So now he tells Mike Pullen, it's not your turn to be judge. Okay. So that's a straight quid pro quo. The guy was a judge. He knows that that's illegal, right? He's using his power and position to intimidate someone to act a certain way. So I've got a DA who can't do, or won't, refuses to do his job. That's my dog in the back. And there's this quid pro quo, right? The district attorney can't do his job if he can never question the sheriff, right? If he can never listen to people when the sheriff wants to shut stuff down. And that is not the way to get justice, not for Steve and not for anyone else. This has not been handled correctly. It has not been handled correctly. Oh, okay. So I did post today it's Maureen Lawner on Facebook. I did post, and I'm going to try to send them around, the posters requesting the camera footage for all the roads in and out of where Steve lived it was Bleecker, Gloversville, New York. So I'm going to ask for your help that I think a problem here is that the silence was just squashed from the beginning. I mean, the sheriff, he sat my family and I down and told us not to talk about this. I believed that he was working on the case. There's the dog in the back again. But actually he wasn't. He was working on squashing it, right? Spinning a suicide narrative. And then, there's something else I decided to share with you today too, because I think it's a huge issue with, first of all, why was he even at my brother's crime scene? Like, the people who needed to be investigating were already there. They were the state police. That was that investigative unit. How could he not collect camera footage that day? I mean, isn't he completely sabotaging that investigation? And then, not to mention the active investigation that went on for a year afterwards. It's certainly not the sheriff's job to call the cause of death, right? Like, he's also not his job to do investigations, but that doesn't seem to stop him. So I want to talk about one other thing today. I feel like this needs to be heard too, right? I want to talk today about my best friend, Lori Washburn's son. Justin De Maria. And so Justin's death has been squashed too. And it's he died September 6, 2018. And what happened there is, it's not the same thing, but it's also like wrong. Who was Justin De Maria? Justin De Maria was, he was in drug court at the time. Like a young man in drug court. And he was unforgettable. He was 5'11", sometimes in drag, and wore 4-inch heels. And sometimes, he dressed as a boy with a baseball cap and a purse. So Justin's death, the weirdest thing happened when Justin died. So the coroner was there and the sheriff was there, and the coroner called a cause of death. And the sheriff called a different cause of death, which had nothing to do with the facts, nothing to do with the evidence that was there. In what world does a sheriff call the cause of death? Fulton County has a coroner, and the medical examiner is actually Michael Sikorica, who's outside of the county. But I mean, no, the sheriff does not determine the cause of death. And it bothers me that the sheriff was, even there, like, he shouldn't have been involved, right? He pretended like he was doing an investigation for Justin's mom. He had her wear a camera and go get a confession. And when she wore the camera footage and went and got the confession, he did nothing about it. So I believe the conflict of interest there, for whatever reason, Sheriff Giardino squashes murders, right? And there's a huge number of the murders are up in Fulton County, and there are a huge number of deaths that are being called suicides that are not. In Justin's case, the sheriff never should have been involved. He was having an inappropriate and abusive relationship with Justin De Maria. Justin was in drug court. So the sheriff used his power and prestige to take advantage of Justin. And then when Justin died, he just buried it. And it's like the facts don't matter. But the facts do matter. The facts matter. And for both cases, right? Like, it's not appropriate at all to bury the truth. The truth is, it's what we need. It's what we all need. We need to heal. And, burying secrets and burying the truth isn't good for anybody. And, So I guess that's pretty much all I have here. I don't think anyone responded in the comments or anything. So if anybody has any questions, they can feel free to type them to me. But otherwise, I would just ask that you do what you can to get the word out about Steve's death and also about Justin De Maria's death, because these are cases that are important and need to be solved still, even if they're squashed by the sheriff's department. The truth has to come out. So, all right.